Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson, and my guest today is Jaime Sarbacker. Welcome, Jaime.
Hi, Wendy.
She just completed earlier this year a huge milestone journey walking the Camino in Spain. And she was my first guest on the show, but our audio was a little wonky, so we're doing take two. So welcome, Jaime. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Wendy. Good to be here.
Or I should say for coming back. So tell me what was going on in the spring of this year that got you thinking about undertaking an adventure. What was happening that inspired you to kind of take on this huge challenge?
It was the spring of this year was a major change in my life. My husband retired young. He retired at 56, and he decided when he retired he was going to hike the Pacific Crest Trail, which is a hike from Mexico to Canada, and it's 2,650 miles, and it would take him 6 months approximately. So he retired, and then a month later, March, he set off on this big hike, and I had no communication with him. So suddenly I went from having a spouse, a maid, even I had kids, to being completely alone. And it really got me examining my own life and what was working for me and what wasn't. And I decided to quit my job. I wasn't happy. And then it left me pretty bored.
You're like, now what? Now I have nowhere to be in the morning.
No one to talk to and nowhere to be. And so I started thinking, what bucket list item do I have of my own? And I brainstormed lots of things, taking my daughter to Europe, which I'm lucky that I get to do, but it just didn't sit well. It didn't sit right with me. Taking a class, going to Costa Rica and getting yoga certified. I mean, I came up with lots of ideas. I knew I wanted to be gone a while, and I wanted to do something that felt true to myself. And also not super expensive, someplace where I could be for a while, but wouldn't cost a lot of money. Backpacking is not my thing, so I knew it wouldn't be that. So I remembered a movie that I saw a long time ago. I believe it came out in 2008, and it was called The Way with Martin Sheen and his son.
Such a good movie. That movie was so powerful.
It was an amazing movie, and it was about a father who's a workaholic, and his 20 to 30-year-old son has wanderlust, and he travels the world. And he goes to do the Camino, which I did, and he dies. And so the father goes to retrieve his ashes and decides to walk it in his son's memory. And on the way, he finds himself, and he meets wonderful people, and the scenery is beautiful. And I thought, that's it. That's what I'm going to go do. And when I first thought it, I told one person, and she was like, what? You're going to go do what? And I said, I'm going to go walk across Spain.
That's an ambitious goal. And first of all, before we even talk about that, I want to acknowledge you for going back to school. Your kids went off to college. So Jaime was my spin instructor and a personal trainer when I lived in San Diego for many years. And when her kids went off to school, she decided to go back to school and get trained and take on a second new career. So I want to acknowledge you for doing that.
Thank you.
That was a huge accomplishment.
Thank you.
And then to have this gift of being able to leave that profession and then take on this awesome challenge must have been a big undertaking for someone who's never done something like this before. How did you even know where to begin?
I love Google. I love researching things.
Thank God for
That's
Google.
why I became a paralegal. So, I just dove headfirst in, and I bought a plane ticket and left 3 weeks later.
I can't believe that you pulled that together so quickly.
Yeah, it was exciting. I wasn't a hiker. I'd never worn a backpack in my life. I had to go to REI and get everything.
How did you know what to take? I wouldn't even know where to begin with that. Your backpack would be like my cosmetics and my products. So
right.
how did you determine what you were going to take and what you would even need? I guess you did a lot of reading and
ton of reading. I even bought a book about what to take because you carry everything on your back.
I know.
I was gone 6 weeks. So I had it honed down. My backpack with my things for 6 weeks weighed 17 pounds. So I bought one dress because it was hotter than I thought it would be, but otherwise that was it.
Wow.
I had my hiking clothes and I had a pair of clothes change of clothes when I didn't hike, and some pajamas.
Yeah. So you had done you had a lot of ideas swirling around when you were coming to this conclusion. What do you think it was about it that made you think, this is it? This is what I'm going to do? Because this was back in March of this year.
Right. So I tell the one friend that I'm going to do this, and she, it's not in her radar at all. No one I know has ever done it. And so, I'm feeling it out. And the first reaction was, okay, that's interesting. So then I told another friend, and she's like, you should go do that. And it was as though I got the validation to go. And then I thought I should go do that. And that was it.
Now, you didn't have much communication with your husband, so did you just disappear for 6 weeks? Able to like send an email that he could access later and say, I'm in Spain for 6 weeks? Or
you know what? We could text briefly. He had a communication system where he could text and receive texts up to 150 characters, and so we were able to brief, and he got a limited number of texts that he could receive or send. But I was able to tell him that this was what I wanted to do, and he was so excited for me. He was my biggest cheerleader.
Awesome.
And not everyone was very supportive. There were people who thought I was crazy. My kids.
Those people are the ones that are kind of reflecting their fears or projecting them on you, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when people see us taking on some big, crazy goal, the first impulse would be like, she is crazy. What is she thinking? She's going by herself. There's so many people who are, all their fears come up, and then that gets expressed as doubt, and I would be perceived as a lack of support for your dreams and goals. So I'm so excited that you actually did it.
Me too. It's wonderful. I think everyone should do it. I do. Yeah. I think everyone should go.
So you left 3 short weeks later after coming up with this idea, which is incredible. I can't imagine how many times you went to REI to get fitted for this.
You have no idea. REI has a great return policy.
They must have known you by name by the time you were ready to go.
It was embarrassing by the end. I still go in there and kind of duck my head as though I know it's me. I returned that pair of underwear. I know.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Do they have a laundry along the way? You're gone for 6 months, going into these tiny little towns that I'm sure don't have a laundromat. Are you just washing your clothes in the sink? How does that work?
Yeah, I was pretty uptight about laundry. I did laundry in the sink most every day. I did not want to get behind on my laundry. I know that was unusual. Most people went 2 days. But I did mine every day. I really
out too. I mean,
it's so wet and cold, and I mean, I've had to wear wet underwear and wet socks.
Gosh.
Yeah, so I did laundry in my sink every day. I'd never done laundry in the sink before.
Probably really good at it by now.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a big learning curve.
Right.
And I left all my soap and shampoo and conditioner. And my first day of the Camino, so I had to use gross soap.
What do you mean? Like you forgot it in your room or something?
The very first day. So I brought nice shampoo, conditioner, soap, even the Dr. Bonner's laundry soap, and no, I left it all. So I was at the mercy of gross soap for a long time.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Well, let's talk a little bit about, this is such a good entree to discuss some of the obstacles you faced. And I know there were probably many presented. And from our last conversation, it seemed that it started right away. So maybe you could share that story.
It did start right away. I flew into Barcelona to adjust to the time difference and also see Barcelona. I'd never been there before. But to get to the start of the Camino, I would have to take 2 buses and 2 trains. Being from the US and being fairly, adventurous, I thought no problem, that would be okay. And what I didn't factor in was the language barrier and the timing of things. And so right away in Barcelona, I missed my first train, and that just was a domino effect to getting on to a train to get me to the next destination, to the bus, and then to the second bus. So right away I was off, and the people in the terminals aren't friendly. Most don't speak English, and it's very stressful. It took all day. And then when I finally got to my destination, my phone died, and I had no way of getting to the home I was staying in. I didn't know the address, and it was night, and I didn't have a map on my phone. And I think I finally found my place after, sign language at about 11 o'clock.
How did you finally find the address? You had no access to your information, no GPS, like your phone died or something.
Yeah, my phone broke. The town itself, the start, is a little teeny tiny town, and I had been wandering around neighborhoods in the dark looking for some kind of sign. And this family saw me wandering around, and they picked me up and drove me. Even though there was a big language barrier, they were so kind. And then when I finally got to my room, my house, it was locked because it was late at night, and they had emailed me a code to get in, and I didn't have the code. So I just sat outside and cried.
I can imagine.
And luckily, a woman let me in and called the facility, and I was able to finally get into my room.
What was it like to have to fend completely for yourself? Like, I've always traveled in the US, so there's no language barrier, so I've had no problem. But if I go anywhere outside, I'm usually with my husband, Mike, so there's 2 of us, and there's a little more comfort in that. What was it like for you, knowing that you have to find your way out of every situation and solve
right
for yourself? That must have been quite a feeling.
Yes, particularly that day. I realized feeling lost is difficult for me. That day was very hard because I was alone and I was lost and I was terrified.
I would think you feel so vulnerable.
I felt so vulnerable. But then the next day I realized, okay, the worst that could happen is that I had to, stay up all night, or I had to sleep in that house without getting in my room, or
Right.
That's okay. That's not that bad. And I started making a scale, 1 to 10. How bad is this? And on a scale of 1 to 10, when I really put it in perspective, it was a 5. It wasn't life-threatening.
Like, I guess 10 would be death.
10 is death.
You're dying.
8 is rape.
Yeah.
It was a 5. I was vulnerable, but I'd live. I'd be okay.
Right.
So, after that, things got easier. That was the worst right there. That was it.
Did you ever get your phone issue resolved?
Sort of. In Spain and Europe, the Wi-Fi just isn't the same. The phone, I went through a lot of battery. My cord broke. So most of the places we stayed are tiny little villages, and there aren't stores with phone cords.
Right.
And so it took about 4 or 5 days, but I was able to get a cord. And then I limped along with that. I actually had to get a second cord further down the line because of the European system with their voltage system. It's different than ours. So, but yeah, I worked it out.
Incredible. What helped you to keep pressing on? I know the first day you were heading out on the trail, you had something happen for you where you were following somebody, or you weren't quite sure where the trailhead was.
Right. So I had got in so late at night, I didn't get a chance to go to the tourist office and get the lay of the land with where to go and how to start. So my plan was get up early and follow people to the start of the Camino.
Because there's probably a lot of people doing the same thing you're doing.
Absolutely.
That makes perfect sense that would be your game plan.
Right. Now, I didn't have water or food because I got in so late. So the plan was follow people out of town, the first stop, get water and food. It was supposedly the hardest day, over 5,000 feet of climb, 17 miles straight up.
Oh my God.
So, but I wanted to get going. So I get up early. I was out the door by 6, and I followed a group of people out of town. And we walked for at least an hour before I saw the people turn around and come back, and we had not started the Camino yet. So that was hard because we hadn't started our hardest day.
You had already done this extra walking before you even got on.
And I still didn't have water or food.
Right. Your time is ticking. Stomach's growling.
But then I used the scale again. I went, okay, 1 to 10, how bad is this? A 2, a 3. It wasn't that bad. I knew, though I wasn't a big walker, I was a runner and a cyclist. I knew I'd make it up the first day, even with the extra 5 miles or so. I knew.
Yeah. Fitness isn't an issue for you. I can vouch for like 300%.
Thank you.
Like in amazing shape. So
thank you.
That wasn't as daunting as it would be for me. I'd be crawling at the end, crawling. But I love that.
Go ahead.
I love that you took that in stride. How did you ultimately find the trailhead?
I followed the people back out, and we walked back and found the start. Interestingly, the start isn't well marked, even though it's
major.
It's not as though there's a sign that says, "This is it, starting."
Welcome to the Camino or something. It's like a little boulder or something. That you
a little arrow.
Yeah.
So we walked back, and then I walked straight up. And that day, normally on the Camino, I took a lot of breaks. It was very social. That day, I didn't take any breaks. I walked to the first store, got water and food, and walked straight up. So,
wow.
Yeah.
This is a silly question, but do they have bathrooms? Are you just going in the bathroom or something? Like, how does that work? You just have to wait for 10 miles until you come up?
Basically, yeah. There are villages every few miles, so you wait for a village or you go in the bushes. They do have a device. I didn't purchase one, but for women to pee standing up. And there were women on the Camino.
I didn't even think there was something like that out there.
I don't know how it works, but I did meet women who had them.
Wow. That's a fun fact. So you start walking, and what's going through your mind? I know you looked at this as an adventure, but for many people, walking the Camino is a very spiritual journey. And it's almost a journey back to themselves at the end of the day. I know that wasn't your intent setting out, but what started happening for you, and what emotions were presenting and thoughts presenting for you as you started your journey?
Well, like you said, I just wanted to do a bucket list adventure. So I had no expectations. Also, I didn't spend years planning it. I didn't know a lot about what other people's experiences were.
Aside from the movie.
Exactly. I spent so much time trying to get gear and figure out where I was going that I didn't go internally and get more information about that element. So it evolved for me naturally, which was wonderful. I didn't have expectations. So the first thing I noticed is that being on my own and meeting lots of people, I started to be myself. And one thing I loved about the Camino was no one knew that I came from San Diego and I was a mom and that, I'd like to wear cute clothes and do my hair. And they just knew me as this woman from the United States that was walking. So the people you meet on the way, you bond, you connect with at a deeper level than the superficial levels that we do here in the US.
Yeah, you're not defined by the external.
You're not. And so you start to make connections, make friendships, people you eat dinner with or walk with, and you relate to them at what I like to call the namaste phrase, that the light in me sees the light in you, and you connect or you don't. And I found that people were seeing me for my light and not because we have, and I made friends with people who were 20 and 60 and from, Ireland or, in a rock band, people I would never meet here. And
that might have never crossed your path because, we both lived in the same neighborhood in San Diego, and it's very suburban and it's a very certain demographic. And so how cool to be out on this path and be exposed and have the opportunity to connect with so many different kinds of people.
Yes. And so with that, I think I always, I have a critic. My critic is loud. I'm not good enough. It's constantly, you're not good enough. You're not, to be this way so that more people like you.
It's so common. That's so common.
And as I walked and made these connections with people, I felt like as you think of an onion, those layers started to strip away, and that critic wasn't as loud because I was accepted for who I was and not for my situation.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Obviously, it wasn't my hair because I had bar soap.
You had no shampoo.
Right. No one said, well, I want to be friends with her for her beautiful hair.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So that was the first thing. And then after that, as I progressed, I started, it started off, I wanted to be friends with everyone and win everyone over. And as time went on, I thought, I don't have to do that. You know what, we can hang out or not. I don't have to like you and you don't have to like me. And that is okay. And
it's really powerful, accepting people for where they are and not having that inner need to be liked.
Yes.
That's a huge shift.
Yeah.
It's a huge paradigm shift when you think about it. To accept yourself enough to know that we can walk next to each other, but we don't have to necessarily be friends or like each other.
Yes.
Right.
And it's okay to say, what, I don't think I want to walk with you in a nice way. But yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's incredible. How did it feel being authentically you?
So amazing. I know, I thought there were times when I thought this is the happiest I've ever been. I mean, I imagine as a child I was that happy, but you don't acknowledge you're happy. But I remember thinking, I have never been so happy.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. Not everybody has an opportunity like this to allow their light to shine and to be their authentic self, because our society really has us programmed to believe we have to show up and be what others expect of us.
Yes.
Programming. We need to be the mom, the wife, the volunteer, the caring friend. There's all these, things we should be. And I think a lot of us dim our light and kind of bury our authentic self to some degree to meet those expectations.
Absolutely. Yes.
So how beautiful that you were given this opportunity to be your authentic self for 60 days.
Yes.
And I'm sure it translated over when you came back, because once you get into that place of being, you can't kind of undo that. Your fullest expression of yourself starts to just seep out, and then that's just who you are.
Yes.
In the box, so to speak, right?
Yes. I do find I'll creep back just being in the same setting.
Yeah.
But what I notice is that critic, I'm able to say, okay, enough, stop. Whereas before I didn't do that. Before the critic just went rampant all day. And now I can say, no, stop that.
You set yourself free from that mental construct to some degree. And you now have more of a recognition.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I know there was a phrase that helped you overcome a lot of challenging issues that presented during your walk and your trek. And maybe you can share that with everyone.
I did. I take a cycling class online, and my instructor has a phrase, I am, I can, I will, I do. And I am is your state, and it's usually not positive. So I am afraid would be an example for the Camino. And then I can is what could you do about it? I could ask for help, and then I will is I will do one thing. I will, stop at the next village and insist on getting help. And then I do is as if the best situation happened, and I do feel okay. So I use that constantly when things got hard. I am, I can, I will, I do, to change my thinking, to get out of the pattern of negative thinking. And when you get right down to it, it's all thoughts. None of it is your truth. It's all thoughts. So changing your thoughts.
Exactly. Exactly. And you had this gift of time to use this tool every day. So it was almost like cognitive training, retraining of that inner critic and that dialogue and that inner voice. It was silencing that critic over time, right?
Right. Or fears. I think that got down to fears, and it was silencing the I am, I can, I will, I do, got down to fears or feelings. You know, I was allergic to wool. I got a rash, or I had blisters on every toe, or, you know, so I had fears about being in pain or being cold or itchy.
Or finishing or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
But all those are temporary. They're all, you know, so that really helped. That I had things I could do about it, and it wouldn't last forever.
What did you notice happened as you started to tame those fears? Who did you become as you went further and further on your journey?
Right.
By taming those fears and those inner doubts.
Yeah, that was very powerful for me. You know, I'm fierce. I am strong. I'm independent.
You are, girl.
Thank you. And I always knew my sense of adventure, you know, is maybe more than the average person, but I still let fear hold me back. I am not, I let it hold me back. And as I went through this, I realized I am strong. I can, you know, I can do amazing things. And that was so powerful.
What a gift you gave yourself.
Yes.
Embarking on this journey and basically rediscovering the power of who you are as a woman, as Jaime.
Yes.
That you have so much to bring to this life, and it has nothing to do with anybody external to you.
Yes. Now, it gets hard when you live in the suburban community.
Then you come back and you're like, oh, that's right. Now I have to do this not out on the Camino, but I have to bring this to my everyday life at home.
Exactly. But I'm always challenging that. But, you know, it's hard though.
I know that people do something with these stones.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what that is, that practice, or that?
Yeah.
Or what the symbolism or meaning is around these rocks?
Yeah, they have it all throughout the Camino. There are those, I don't know what they're called, but those beautiful rock formations that people build stones as thing I can't remember. They have a cute name. And then on the 23rd day, the highest point in the Camino, there is a big monument where you lay down a rock, and the rock people usually bring from home, and it represents a burden you carry. And many people bring a rock with a photo that represents a loved one that they're letting go, they're freeing, or they bring something that they feel is burdensome to them. And I didn't know about the rock.
Whoops! You forgot that detail.
I picked one up anyway, and I actually laid down lots of rocks, but really the rocks that I kept laying down were self-doubt, and I didn't expect to feel moved at the 23rd day when you lay down your burden, but I cried, I sobbed. I was laying down more self-doubt than I thought I would.
Mm-hmm. How powerful.
Mm-hmm.
How really powerful. And also, I would think there's something powerful. You're doing it alone, but as you're laying down this burden, other people are releasing things there as well. And there's really something powerful about being in the energy of that collective, because other people are there at the same time doing the same type of releasing work. And it must be really, really emotional, like you said.
there's just no words to describe. Like, it's exactly correct, Wendy. It's the energy of the experience, and people, we've all done this walk together, and you think, it's just a walk, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, just the day in, the day out of walking, and you don't know where you're going to sleep. And
how many miles a day were you walking typically?
I walked about 20 miles a day. I took 2 rest days, so that was 17 miles a day. But it's mountains. It's not. It's Colorado would be my best description of it. There are mountains.
Not flat.
It's not flat. It's in the north. We had snow, rain. It's not. People think of Spain and they think of the beach and warm, and this was mountainous. So lots of ups and downs, rocks, trails.
And then I would think physical discomfort because you're wet and cold and
blisters and muscle soreness. And, but you know what? And the first week, it's hard. You feel, even though I was fit, I think everybody reacts to it differently. The first week for everyone is hard, no matter your fitness. Your muscles hurt, your back hurts, you're tired, you're homesick,
you're alone.
You're alone. Once you get through that first week, and it's almost as if you transcend the pain.
I was wondering if you hit a certain point where you kind of push through that, and then you're kind of in the zone, and the suffering just eases a little bit. Was there a tipping point where you kind of found your groove, I guess?
I would say 10 days. I would say about 10 days into it. I know the Camino, it's said, is broken up into 3 phases of the 500 miles. The first third is physical. The second third is mental, and the last part is spiritual. And so I would say it took me 30 days approximately to do the Camino. The first 10 days were physical. It was hard. I had tape on every single toe.
Did that ring true for you? The physical, mental, and then spiritual aspect? Did you find that really did align with your experience?
It really did. And I thought it was cliche. I actually made fun of it. But once
you're like, wait a minute. this is kind of familiar here.
But once I got to that last third, I did feel a spiritual connection. For one thing, the last third is magical. It looks like something out of a fairy tale. Mist and creeks and trees and moss and little gray thatched roof stone houses.
Wow. I would think too, having the gift of being in nature all day, every day, does something for your soul.
You can't even imagine. There's nothing. That was the second best thing about the Camino is the nature. First thing was the people. The gift of being with different people from all over the world, to have that experience is unlike anything. I think most people get to.
What do you realize about humanity on this journey? Because you have this opportunity to meet people from literally all over the world, all different demographics, different socioeconomic groups. What was your takeaway having these beautiful interactions with all, people from such a full spectrum?
Yeah. Most people are wonderful, and they want the best for you, and the news brings out the negative things and the negative people, but I didn't meet anyone that was like the news. Everyone I met is wonderful, and we're all the same. We are all the same, no matter where we come from, or rich, poor, young, old, thin, fat, ill, not ill, we're all the same.
Right. It was like a huge equalizer.
Yes.
Being out on that trail and realizing and recognizing, like you said, namaste, right?
Yes.
There's the light in you in every individual encounter.
Yes.
So beautiful. So how has this impacted your everyday life? How many days, first of all, did it take to complete the entire trail?
It took me 29 days of actual walking, so 31 days total. I took 2 rest days. And I gave myself 6 weeks. I did not know how long it would take me. The average person takes 35 days, and my start and end places were at least 10 hours away by train or bus from where I finished and started. So I wanted to give myself some leeway time.
What did you feel when you made it at the end?
For me, it was a little anticlimactic. I didn't want it to end. I wanted to keep on walking. For me, and maybe I might be unusual because I am fit. It was more about the journey than the destination. And though I was emotional about finishing, I also I felt like, I need to keep going. I need to keep walking.
You walk back. I don't know.
Or else could I just walk another way? Or
right.
I didn't want to stop, but I have responsibilities and I had to go home.
Of course.
I contemplated walking to the airport.
What was it like that first time you got into a hotel and just got to take like a hot shower and wash your hair? And
oh my goodness, it was amazing. You really appreciate. Yeah, nice sheets and
a pillow. I mean, where were you crashing? I mean, how does that work? Do you just knock on people's doors? Do they have pensions, or how does?
Yeah. Most people stayed in what they call albergues, which are hostels with bunk beds, and I was terrified of that.
I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, I'm not a good sleeper, and so I stayed in private rooms, even if that meant I had to walk a little bit further to the next town. I stayed in private rooms, and typically I would start the day and try and map out where I could stay and get a private room.
Do you call ahead, or do you just show up and hope that they have space?
My goal was to just show up, but May is a very popular month.
So you were saying about staying in the different hostels. It wasn't an option at the end. So you just out just doing what you were doing before.
I did. So every few days I would book for the next few days. It became stressful to look for the next place to stay. So I would do a few days at a time.
So what was it like coming back? What was re-entry like for you, coming back into suburban living after being on an adventure like that for 6 weeks?
It was hard because I was working 4 days a week and 8-9 hour days. So I quit my job and then got very focused for doing the Camino. I started walking and buying gear, and then I was focused for 6 weeks. And I came home with nothing to do. And my husband's gone. My daughter was home, which was nice. But I didn't have anything to do. And I felt lost.
Yeah.
I didn't want to fill my time with just
meaningless stuff.
Yeah. And I was pretty sure I didn't want to go back to being a paralegal. So I had to examine what my priorities were and what I see for myself as I continue. And it was hard work.
What does it look like for you, Jamie? You've had some distance and time now to kind of really figure out what you want or who you want.
Right. I'm not sure. I struggle with, I believe, the American mentality that we work hard, and we have nice things. We get the big house in the suburbs with the nice car and the nice clothes, and with the idea that I just want to live a very simple life and travel and do activities that are meaningful for me. And it sounds simple, but it's not, living in Southern California and just being in America.
You're surrounded by a different kind of energy and different values.
I am, and I go into people's homes and they are updated and beautiful furniture and
yeah.
And
I won't tell you how old my couch is.
And I feel as though oh my gosh, I need to get back into that. And then there's the expectation I need to have an office job and wear cute clothes and earn. And it's taken.
That's not where our true value is.
No.
Our true value is the light we carry within us. And
yes.
I really feel our real job, is to be the best version of us.
Yes.
It's people,
it's hard in our society. I get sucked in and then I have to pull myself back out. So I felt paralyzed for a little while, and now I'm finding my way out of it.
Awesome. What's next for you?
Well, my husband and I have to do some thinking. My husband retired, and so we're thinking of downsizing and doing things that are meaningful for us. I'm thinking about going back to fitness. I enjoyed doing it. So why not go back?
You're a gift. Your classes were awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
You gave me such a great outlet as my spin instructor all those years. 5 days a week I was going. Right now wow, how did I do that? I was releasing a lot in your class on that spin bike, going through my own stuff,
Yeah. So that's next. I think being authentic, I'm considering some challenges that would make me really show up and be present and be more authentic than I am. But that's my goal. Have peace, show up to my life every day, and be present.
Do you have any final words of advice, having gone on this journey and knowing what you know now about the power of authenticity? Do you have any advice for people who watch?
Absolutely. And it's something, when I'm present, I try to live by. Don't let fear hold you back. And we all do. Think about what scares you and go past it. Change the words in your head, but don't let fear or society's expectations of you hold you back in your life. And be present. Meditate. It is. So that's my words of advice. And we don't, as Americans, we're afraid, and we're not present. And it's a change in the way we think. And it's against the grain, so it's hard.
I just want to come through the screen and love you right now. That was so beautifully said. I think we're going to end on that note, Jaime. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us and your resilience. And you're such a beautiful person.
Thank you. You too, Wendy.
It's so great to share this time with you. So to all my listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope if this resonated with you, you will subscribe, like, and share my YouTube channel. I hope Jaime's journey inspired you to do something that causes you to face some fears and just come back into alignment with your authentic self. Be kind to yourselves. And I love you all. Have an awesome day. Thank you.